In early July, former U.S. President Donald John Trump filed a lawsuit against some of the biggest tech giants, Google, Facebook, and Twitter. He claimed he was the victim of censorship. That's what he said. Trump was banned from using his social media accounts in January over public safety concerns after the deadly Capitol Hill riots on the 6th, facing backlash for, among other things, spreading misinformation. Well, one newer social media entrant into the space, a new platform, is willing to take all of his opinions, even trying to court Mr. Trump to sign up himself. The new social media app is called Gettr, was launched in part by a former Trump aide who says the platform is founded on some main principles, including free speech, independent thought, rejecting political censorship, and cancel culture. The goal here for Jason Miller and his colleagues, creating a social media platform for all. Now here to discuss is the CEO of Gettr and former senior advisor to President Trump, Jason Miller. Jason, good to see you, man. Thanks for being here. So I want to get right to Gettr's terms of service. Of course, right to Gettr's terms of service. We're going to put them up here on the screen. You say, in part, the company holds freedom of speech as its core value, does not wish to censor your opinions. Nonetheless, Gettr may, but will not have any obligation to review, monitor, display, post, store, maintain, accept, or otherwise make use of any of your user-generated content. And the company may, in its sole discretion, reject, delete, move, reformat, remove, or refuse to post or otherwise make use of user-generated content without notice. Jason, of course, why does a free speech platform need so many restrictions on free speech?
Well, and this is one of the things I spent a lot of my time on the moderation side, where we do have a very proactive and robust moderation policy, because if we want to have this marketplace of ideas, if we want to be able to have these political opinions, then we have to make sure that this is an inviting environment. And also people need to realize that their free speech rights go up to the point where they start to infringe on someone else's well-being or their free speech rights. And so if you went a little bit further in the terms of service, you'll see that we very thoroughly reject, racial and religious epithets or terrorist imagery or pornography, things like that. That's not political free speech. What we want to make sure is that people can express themselves, that there's never going to be put in time out or shadow banned or had some algorithm changed or censored because of their beliefs, because they're political beliefs. But also, if you're pushing towards, say, illegal activity, or the court case that's obviously very famous, you can't do the proverbial yelling fire in a theater. So we do have a proactive moderation policy. I think that's why we're going to be able to, we're not going to be deplatformed from anywhere, but also want to make sure it's a safe place for people to be.
Jason, you've called out Twitter for a number of things, including allowing the Taliban on the platform. I'm just trying to figure out where your line is here for you and your colleagues at Gettr. Would a group like the Taliban be invited onto Gettr, and if not, why not?
Not at all. I think that if the nature of your organization is to try to hurt other people or bring fear to other people or go and try to physically harm other people, then if you're a terrorist organization, then no, then we don't want you and we don't want any of your members to be joining this platform. This is about trying to bring people into a conversation, whether it's in the US, whether it's internationally. It doesn't matter where on an ideological spectrum you are or what country you're from. If you preach terror, then you're not welcome on Gettr. And that's where I think a major distinction between Gettr and Twitter, for example, where Twitter is currently allowing the Taliban to be on their platform while at the same time kicking off President Trump. I think that's a dangerous double standard. And I think it really sends the wrong message.
How many content moderators do you have at Gettr right now?
Great question. So we have both an AI component as well as a human moderator component that work together. And so I'd say somewhere we've added additional folks. I think we're somewhere in the somewhere about the 150 range. And keep in mind, it expands. It's a bit of an accordion-like process. So if we have certain spikes in activity, so we expect this weekend, for example, in Brazil, where I'm flying down tomorrow to go to CPAC Brazil, and I'll be speaking. I think we'll have a big bump up. So I've added some additional folks. I'll be working with Portuguese over this weekend. Obviously, English is where about half of our user base is US, about half is international. We do have community managers in addition that are established in a number of different countries. But again, working with both the AI and with the human moderators, then we believe that we're able to get everything. And look, JD, I'll be on the level with you. This is one of the things that I spent a lot of time on. This is something that I think we've improved on as a platform since we launched and since we started, and something that we take very seriously.
One thing I like about your own use of Gettr, Jason, and I follow you on there, is that you seem to be very open with people about the challenges of content moderation. You recently had a post on there about why you don't just automatically add something like an edit button. And I can't help but notice, Jason, respectfully, you do kind of sound like a Jack Dorsey. I mean, these are the sorts of things I've been hearing from Zuckerberg and Dorsey for many years. And I'm curious now in your position, especially when so many Republicans love to just lob bombs at the tech companies, do you find yourself having a greater appreciation for the challenges of content moderation now essentially doing that job?
Well, there are two parts of that. I mean, I've always taken the issue of content moderation seriously. I mean, as someone who has children, and especially my oldest is 12, and she's starting to get on the internet and start searching around and trying to get onto social media platforms like TikTok and things like that. Although technically she's not supposed to be on until she's 13, I believe, by the terms of their rules. So I've always paid attention to this, but I think one of here's the big difference, JD, is that you can't have political discrimination, I think, enter into it. And so you can't have, say, one group of people have one political philosophy differ from someone who has a different political philosophy. You have a set of rules, and that's how you need to, that's what you need to live by. And I think that's something that we try to do. And look, on the moderation side, I do try to interact with people on the platform as much as possible. It's all about the user experience. If anyone can maybe convince people to come and check out Gettr one time, I want them to come back. I want them to realize that I have a vested interest in this, that I take it seriously. And look, I never knew that there was this big cult-like following for dark mode. I mean, who would have known that was a big thing? But after getting blown up over and over, Jason, where's dark mode? This is a worthless platform until we get dark mode. Guess what? I walked into my CTO's office and said, Joe, we need dark mode. Like, get it tomorrow. And so, but it's fun. I think the energy, I think the excitement that we have, and this thing's really a rocket ship. So we're having a lot of fun with it.
I'm a big fan of dark mode. I have so many more questions, but I am running out of time. I do want to ask you about the big lie. Of course, President Trump, many of his advisors continue to falsely state the 2020 election was rigged, it was stolen, it was undemocratic. They say Donald Trump won when Joe Biden didn't. On Twitter, those sorts of posts get flagged. Twitter rolled out like a media manipulation tag. If a Republican sitting member of the House, take your pick, gets onto Gettr and makes those objectively false claims, does Gettr at all flag those, or do you think that falls under general free speech? That's their opinion to say what they want to say.
Well, I'm going to give you, JD, I'm going to give you a little bit of a punt on this one because they have to go on a case-by-case basis. And I'm very careful to not overgeneralize unless something is so crystal clear as say, are you a member of a terrorist group or not? I'd have to see the actual post to go and react to it. I do think that as someone who obviously make no bones about it, I worked for President Trump in the 2016 and 2020 campaigns. I do think a number of the rules were changed in an unconstitutional fashion that did help tilt the election. I do not believe that I've seen enough with regard to fraud and abuse to have swung the election. So if we're talking about the constitutionality, I'll be ready to roll up my sleeves and have that argument any day, preferably on Gettr. We'll go and make sure we can rumble on there. But if you're talking about just purely on the fraud and abuse, then I would disagree with that. But I think I have to take a case-by-case basis on the posts because, again, there's political opinion where things are. It'd be tough to overgeneralize, and I've realized when it comes to especially on the content moderation, you don't want to overgeneralize, get in trouble real quick.
Yeah. I'm out of time, Jason. What's the likelihood President Trump runs again in 2024?
I would say somewhere between 99 and 100%. I think he's definitely running in 2024. Had a good conversation with him last night. I'm going to go see him in another couple days here. He has not said the magical words to me, but if you talk to him for a few minutes, it's pretty clear that he's running. And I think just what we've seen unfold in Afghanistan recently has really just emboldened that.
Yeah, I watch your interviews very closely, Jason. That's more than you've given other reporters, so thank you. And thank you for your time. Good luck with Gettr. That's the CEO of Gettr, former senior advisor to President Donald Trump, Jason Miller. Jason, thanks for being here. Good to have you on the show.